Hey, we're back. Welcome to the second attempt at our Ship Week launch planning episode. Google Hangouts is giving us grief.
Hi, Ernie.
Hey, Audrey. Well, you made it at least.
It keeps
Goodness.
flashing the awesome stuff page.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad strategy. Just send this to people if they don't know about it. It's actually not a bad link to send. Let me see if I can find it. Also find us from the page. Where are we here? Oh, there's Ian. Okay, hopefully Daniel will find us shortly. Hey, and we're all back. Good. So yes, our goal is to be both easier to use and more reliable than Google Plus and Hangouts. I figure that's a reasonable bar to shoot for. So let me go ahead and try this Bible verse again here. Where is that? Of course, I lost my page in place. John 11. Okay, here we go. Oh, right there. Anyway, okay. Father, verse 41. Father, I thank you that you heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said these things because of the people here around me. I want them to believe that you sent me. And that's a bold thing to say, and then he does something really bold to justify it. After Jesus said this, he cried out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with pieces of cloth and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, take the cloth off of him and let him go. Many of the people who had come to visit Mary and saw what Jesus did believed in him. And that's encouraging. This is actually the best case scenario, what happens next. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Then the leading priests and Pharisees called a meeting of the council. They asked, what should we do? This man is doing many miracles. If we let him continue doing these things, everyone will believe in him. Then the Romans will come and take away our temple and our nation. One of the men there was Caiaphas, the high priest that year. He said, you people know nothing. Don't you realize that it's better for one man to die for the people than for the whole nation to be destroyed? And I was telling Amy this when I had lunch last week. The best case scenario is we built this huge following and we get attacked. Because we are subversive. We are challenging the dominant paradigm of how computation is done. There's going to be a lot of people saying, no, this is not real programming. Right? This is not what everyone's been teaching us programming. And we're trying to be as respectful and to be working with people. And I'm hoping that I'll make sure that our tone and our language. But there is a little bit of a edge to what we're doing. And the best case scenario is that we are popular enough that we start getting attacked. So be warned. But the real question is that, and when people actually say, look, you could be right. Let's have a dialogue. Is this real programming? What is real programming? I got blog posts talking about these things. It's like, and I love the Hour of Code. It was a brilliant innovation. I'm so glad people are doing it. I'm not attacking them. I'm attacking the assumptions that were made 40 years ago about what programming is by people who were doing the best they could at the time. But the only way to answer them is the evidence. Experience-based learning, I call it, right? We've got to create an experience that demonstrates, and so people who don't believe us, look at the work and decide for yourself if it's a miracle or not. And anyway, that was just a brief introduction. Let me just pray real quick, and then we have to actually stop praying and get to work, or get to the other work. Dear God, I thank you that you hear me. I know that you hear me. I know that you love me, but I say this so that those who are watching, those who are using the app, and whatever this becomes, will know. Lord, this is your miracle. You get all the glory. Help us to finish well. Help us to work hard on what you need us to do. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. We have a small but potent list of things to get done. So let me kind of go over this. Audrey, this is where we turn you into a social media maven.
Okay.
The goal is to use the Hour of Node Twitter account tomorrow morning once we start launching, and just send out tweets to people who are talking about the Hour of Code and get them to take a look at the Hour of Node. And so today we'll be doing two things. One is we'll be compiling a list of people who are talking about the Hour of Code. So basically what you'll be doing is log into the Hour of Node Twitter account and then just start doing searches on CS Education Week, Programming for Kids, Hour of Code, and as you find people, follow them and retweet them. Those are the two big things to do. And if you are comfortable doing it, there's this thing called Twitter lists where you can organize the people you follow into groups. Like these are media, these are technical, these are educators. I'm not sure how hard that is, so if that's too difficult, don't worry about that. But just following and retweeting, and then we'll start, and then the next thing we need to do, so hopefully you can spend a couple hours doing that. There should be a lot of media around the Hour of Code. And then this afternoon, or possibly this evening, I'll start writing up some example tweets of things to send people. Because what we want to do tomorrow, and we'll spend all day tomorrow doing, I suspect, depending on how the traction goes, is creating little one-sentence summaries of the Hour of Node to try to get people to check it out and see which ones people tweet, which ones people respond to. And that's our primary marketing campaign, or at least that's one part of it. The second part of it is direct emails to influential people we know. But that's your main job, and if you can help out with other stuff along the way, that's great, but that's the big piece. Is that clear?
Okay, just Hour of Node, not the Swan Factory Twitter?
Yeah, I think it'll be simpler if you do the Hour of Node Twitter account and I do the Swan Factory account.
Okay.
And then when I post things on the Swan Factory, you should follow me if you haven't already, and you can also retweet those things.
Okay.
Less chance of confusion that way. So Daniel, you have a good weekend?
Yeah, I did.
One of the things I'm most proud of, Ian, is Daniel joined the startup last week, and this is actually the first weekend he has not worked. And the only thing I feel a little guilty about is that I chided him a little too hard for working late. I commented I'm probably the first startup founder in history to chide his employees for working too late and take a sick day off on Friday before we launch. And I may actually take a sick day off tomorrow morning because my daughter has a little bit of a fever. And she'll probably be well, but not well enough to go back to school. So that is vastly amusing. I just felt God's sense of humor and all that. So anyway, today, I was actually thinking about this, Daniel. The one piece of the pedagogy that's caused me the most grief is that the way people solve the puzzle is by brute force.
Mm-hmm.
What they do in the Hour of Code, they just say instruction, 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 instruction. They don't trust the run loop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I added a little check there, which confused and annoyed Rohan, and I'm not sure if people are going to get through it. That's one of the things we're going to test. But the sense to just dive in and brute force it. And I realized, oh, that's actually the only thing that worries me about you, is that you dive in and you brute force things because you're so smart and so dedicated and have such a high pain threshold. And so what I want to work on today is shorter iterations. And there's a concept that we have in academia called the least publishable unit. Like, you get rewarded for the number of papers. And so you figure out, okay, given all that I need to do, what's the tiniest thing that I can write that I can get a paper out of? And you do all these tiny little papers. It's really kind of annoying when you want to read it, but it's an interesting concept. And so what I want to work on today is what I'm going to call the least mergeable unit.
All right.
But for all these little things to, because one, I think it's better for you, one, so you don't get in the groove and work for 12 hours. But two, it's much easier on me if I can see every hour what's happening rather than just seeing this amazing, awesome piece of work at 2 o'clock in the morning. Get these tiny little things every hour. And so the challenge is to, and I realized in some ways it's a little less efficient, but today especially it's important because God willing, we're going to get beta testing feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what I'm going to need you to do every given week. And so the idea is that we touch pace now, and there's lots of little things, but I'm going to try and see if I can get Ian to fix some of those.
Cool.
The big thing that is causing me stress, despite all the prayer and therapy, I still get stressed, is that the promise we are making is, and the thing that I felt God really telling me to do, is not just get kids to go through a puzzle and feel like they've programmed. I want to create a way for them to actually create and share their own levels.
Mm.
And that piece is, a lot of the infrastructure is there. There's a few key pieces missing. There is no tutorial for that yet. And so what I decided we needed to do, because as you mentioned, the last level was very confusing, I broke out the editing thing to its own level, its own game, actually. So kids will go through the game. They will need a splash screen that tells them, you know, they're completed, but it could be just really simple, just a single thing, congratulations, you're done. And then it could be as simple as, I realize I think the app itself will be GM, but the editing piece will be beta, because we will not have had much time to test it. But I want to try, between you and me, to get a edit game beta up.
Okay.
And so little bits and pieces. So I think the pieces that are marked ready, which are the JSON import and the level export, are the two big things to focus on today. And I'm hoping that the JSON import should be pretty easy, right? Because it's pretty much the same thing as the my.coffee merge-in. Right. It's basically we just generate a JSON file, parse it, throw it in the dictionary as part of the load phase if it's there.
Uh-huh.
So that's probably the first thing for you to work on is that. And the goal is to try and get that done before lunch.
Okay.
And then we will touch base and figure out what to do next.
Cool.
Sound like a plan?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So Ian, have you ever used GitHub before?
No.
Have you ever used Git before?
No.
Have you ever written CoffeeScript before?
Have I used what before?
Ever written any JavaScript before?
No.
Awesome! Exactly why I need you. What I want you to do, and I think God has prepared you for this, is to work with me and make a complete fool of yourself on the internet like I've been doing, learning how to use these tools. Because it's funny, you know, this is hilarious to me. I felt like one of the big things God wanted me to do, I started out wanting to teach programming to kids. But then God really hammered me on this idea of diversity. We need to include everyone in programming. And the term in the Silicon Valley is all these, you know, white male engineers who are the privileged ones. And there's all these people of color or people in different regions who don't live in Pacific time who are excluded from the world of programming. So one of the early partners in this was the two basically, effectively the co-founder, the people who started this with me in September are friends from Apple Christian Fellowship. Andrew Williams, who's one of the leading African-American robotics educators, who has a real passion for teaching girls and people from disadvantaged backgrounds how to use technology to build a career and improve their lives. And then Amy Chan, who I believe she's actually an immigrant, but she basically comes from a single-parent household and worked her way up by tiger momming herself. And so that was the original goal. Okay, let's go with gender diversity and ethnic diversity. But then all these other diversities came in, and one of which was, you know, we want to create something accessible to the blind. And that's still on the list for this week. If we actually ship and pull something off and we're not going crazy, the goal is to roll this out, is to get this accessible, to make it the first hour of code tutorial that works for the visually impaired. The other thing was languages. The hour code is going international. Everything's hard-coded in English. While loops, for loops. It shouldn't be that hard, he says foolishly, to create a version of this that works in Spanish, or works in French. You know, at least the game levels, and probably even the control names, right? We just add a local name method that checks the browser language and grabs a local string. And I've already got people lined up, a Spanish-speaking family from our church. A possible editor for the website is a linguist who's working with Wycliffe, taking classes in Europe, in France, who probably knows a few friends who speak different languages. And Audrey, what languages do you speak and can write?
Chinese and English.
Right. So before the end of this week, if we survive, I would love to have you translate the hour of code into Chinese.
Okay.
All right? And make sure you play through the game if you haven't yet, and think about, you know, how if you could, because most of it's very simple words. You know, click, use, load, run. There's a few technical words like program, but very few. So it shouldn't be that hard with a little bit of infrastructure. But the most amusing thing, I assume you're using a Windows laptop, right, Ian?
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned you tore. So the hardest diversity, cultural barrier, and prejudice I had to overcome was Windows. I suddenly realized when working with David is that I have all this privilege of being a Unix user. All the examples on GitHub, all the open source terminology is comfortable and familiar to me. And poor David was struggling because I would say, oh, just do this. But all the instructions were written for Unix users. All the things assume that people have a text editor. All these basic things that I take for granted as part of my privilege. And so perversely, the most disadvantaged group of people that I had the least sympathy for and the most prejudiced against were white male engineers running on Windows. And I had to work through some pretty difficult emotional issues to accept that. Yes, that's you, Ian. Is that from my world, you are the despised, underprivileged minority. And
You have to add in old, too.
And it says, no, one of the things that we got to do is people exactly like you and David, people who have some technical background, people who, you know, are not part of the Unix hacker culture, at least as native speakers, and people like you are part of the flock that God has called me to reach out to. And there are millions of people like you who have some technical background, who are working in jobs that don't let them express themselves creatively. Right? They're either doing non-technical work or they're doing really grunt work IT. And, you know, David, you know, I worry a lot about David, you know, working long hours and killing himself because he's a geek like me, and that's our natural bent. David is, bless his heart, he's working all hours of the day and night on this stuff because he's still got his day job. But for him, it's great because he's never done that in his life. He's never built something so cool that he wanted to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning. And that's the experience that is the surprise benefit of the Hour of Node, is that we want to create a place where the frustrated Windows engineer type can come in and experience the joy of being a geeky Unix hacker. And that's what I want you to be focused on. And the way we do it at the Swan Factory, we teach these things by living it. So I'm going to spend some time with you, probably something like 10 minutes on, 30 minutes off, where I'll work with you, Ian, 10 minutes and get you started, and then you'll go beat your head against the wall for a half hour, an hour, trying to do something, and then we check back and say, okay, how'd it go? What worked? What didn't? You know, where's the documentation unclear? And that as you go, the goal is that you will take notes where you can and then start revising and updating the documentation and creating support notes. The other really big thing that I'm hoping we will need is the support site on AnswerHub. Some buddies of mine from my previous job donated us a free support site on AnswerHub, and Audrey spent some time configuring it, but we need to have something there. And my hope is that by the end of today, we'll at least have a few articles so it doesn't look like a ghost town. And Ian, if you are up for it, you have some background doing support and response engineering, I know. Do you have any background writing technical docs or knowledge base articles or things like that?
Yeah, technical docs, yeah.
Awesome. So I suspect your job this week will be running the support site. And so, again, it's kind of related to what you've done, but you've never done it before, and that's exactly how we roll at the Swan Factory. We're going to do awesome stuff. We're going to do it badly, and that's great, because then other people who know more than us will not be intimidated. Right? They won't say, oh, man, these guys are so professional. This is so perfect. I don't know what I can do. No. We are like little children, and that's how we're going to inherit the kingdom of God. So I think, Audrey, you know what you need to know to get started. Daniel, I think you know what you need to know to get started. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then Ian and I will come back live, and we will. I will get you started. All right?
Sounds good.
So the plan is to send me a text, touch base with me. So it's already, I think, lunchtime for you, Audrey. So feel free to get some food and take a break, and then start plowing through the Twitter sphere. And if you get stuck or have any questions, the rule of thumb is, if you get stuck, try for 10 minutes to beat your head against the wall. Try talking it out verbally, and then please text me so that you don't waste time going in the wrong direction. And I think we want to try and iterate every hour or so. So try and touch base with me in an hour or so to make sure we're on track, to make sure there isn't anything else urgent that's come up that we need to redirect on. All right? Back to execute prefetch.
So, Ernie, about the WordPress site, so you mentioned about the update the titles of team page to experience. What do you mean about that?
So on the team directory, we list people with a title of online experience or overall experience, like that. Do you see that page?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what we're using. We don't have. I don't want people to be using titles of CEO and CTO, chief this, chief that.
Oh, okay.
Factory. My title is overall experience.
Okay, just experience.
Daniel's title is programmer experience, and just go through like that, and we'll figure out a title for you by the end of today, Ian.
Okay.
Probably and if you want to be listed on the page, just send Audrey a picture if you haven't already.
Okay, so can you just put the team as the parent? I mean the child page.
Yeah, I did already. It is actually listed as the team as a child, and I have a link to it from the About page. It doesn't show up visually in the UI, but that's fine.
Oh, I see. Meet the rest of the team, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see. Saw that. Okay. Okay, so I will just add experience instead of title there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I still need people to send the pictures to me.
Yeah. And not everyone may be comfortable being listed or is ready to get listed, but as we have them, we'll add them.
Hey, Daniel, I just poured out your picture from Facebook there. One of your pictures.
Oh, I thought I posted a picture on Basecamp.
Did you not see the Basecamp pictures?
Yeah, I can't find it.
Let's see if we can.
I prefer the Basecamp picture because I'm looking at the camera in that one. I'm pretty sure my Facebook picture, I'm looking away from it.
Well, there's one picture. The background is the trees, and you're smiling. I think that's.
And I have a lot of pimples too.
Oh, okay. That's fine. It's a small profile picture. Can't see very clearly though.
Let me grab you the one I posted on Basecamp.
Okay.
It's here. All right.
Do you want me to add the address there, Ernie, or just like
the cities? Let me just get a quick thing. I think it's kind of cool that the fact that we are in so many different cities and regions.
Okay.
Do you think it's better to, just quick thoughts, to say things like Northern California, Southern California, or to just list the actual cities? Any thoughts?
I think that's fine to add like San Francisco. Yeah, that's just cool. People can see you're from different areas.
Okay. And did you see the link that Daniel just sent to the picture on the sidebar there, Audrey?
Oh, let me see. Okay, sure. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's hopefully the last website stuff you can do, and after that you can focus on Twitter.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much. So we'll take a 10-minute break, and you guys hopefully know what you need to do, and I'll hook up with Ian in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Time for tea.
So
Time for
to,
tea. Yes.
you don't need me, right? Do you need me to join?
No, it'll be just me and Ian for the next
Okay,
one.
cool.
Okay. Bye.
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 Journey.
Bye.